And now it's time for a preview of an upcoming game by Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at a Kickstarter preview called Fallen. This is a dungeon crawl, which is for 2 players. Basically, one player is going to take the role of a hero and the other person is taking the role of some evil wickedness beyond belief. And they're going to fight each other. But it's different. It's not your typical dungeon crawl. Instead, this is a series of challenges where players will be rolling dice and playing cards and trying to outplay the other person. Let me show you. As with all my previews, the components in this game are not final quality. These are just kind of a way to show you how the game plays. And even in this one, there is a lot going on in this game, although the game itself is not that difficult. This game is a 2-player game in which one person is going to take control of the bad guys. So for example, I might take the Ogre King here, or the Archivist of Souls, or the Forge Master. Each of these is basically the bad guy who's in charge, but you also have decks of cards that you'll be drawing. For example, you'll draw 4 of these cards and place them in front of you, and these are monsters that you'll have. Maybe the Soul Scribe here, or the Core Viper, or the Plague Beetle, or the Devouring Swarm. There's lots of different ones, and you have levels 1, 2, and 3 of those. The hero, on the other hand, will pick a hero. So for example, I might take Merace the Sorceress, Sarath the Pit Fighter, or Rannick the Thief. When you pick one of these people, it will tell you on the back a little bit about that person, but also tells you what their starting equipment is. So for example, she starts with 3 pieces of equipment: a wizard's robe, an apprentice staff, and a torch. And these aren't very powerful pieces of equipment, but they are there. More importantly, though, we want to look at her card. On her card, it shows a special ability that she can use during the course of the game, but it also shows bonus dice she gets depending on what challenge. So, for example, in a strength challenge, she gets no bonus dice. In a magic challenge, she gets a red bonus die. And in an agility challenge, she gets a blue bonus die. And then she has a hand limit of 3. And then down here she can have 2, use up to 2 of those each turn. Now, the way this game also lets you further put these people out by picking a skill card. So she might pick Channeler. There's 3 categories of skills, and you always have to start with the lowest one before going to the final one. You can only have 3 skills. So after Channeler, let's say later on she gets the Master Sorceress, that would replace Channeler, although it's a much better skill. Most of the time these skills will add bonus dice depending on what type of challenge it is, but they also can give other special powers that you can use over the course of the game. Now, the way the whole game works is it's going to be based on a bunch of story challenges. And these story challenges are from a whole pile of cards here. And I don't want to show you, I'm going to show you one. And I don't want to show more than one because there's a lot of surprises in these. There will be 3 of these story cards over the course of the game. And then after that, you basically have the final challenge against the hero versus villain. And so what happens is they'll read the story to the bad guy, reads the story to the good guy, and then gives him a choice. So here an orc jailer has a couple people locked up and starts grabbing a crossbow to shoot at you as you run through the door. So you have to decide whether to push the lever or to dodge his shot. And depending on which action you choose depends on what kind of challenge you'll do. So then you resolve a challenge. When that challenge is resolved, you might have more choices, or you might only have 1. And then it goes on the back and keeps going until you get to the end of the challenge. At the end of a challenge, the bad guy is always going to get 1 experience point, and the good guy is going to get experience points based on the decisions they made over the course of that challenge. Now, as the story card goes by, there are challenges on that card. There's 4 challenges in total. And each of these challenges, this is the heart of the game. In a challenge, the bad guy will go first, and he's always going to roll these 2 black dice, which show swords on them. Some of them 2 swords or 1 sword. They'll show wounds where he'll wound a good guy, and it will also show these power-ups where basically you will gain power here. When you gain 3 power, whether you're the good guy or the bad guy, you have the ability to use a special super ultimate ability that will help you out. At the beginning of each challenge, each player is going to get 5 of these fortune tokens, and they can use a certain amount each battle, which is shown on the card. So they can use 2 for each of the challenges. So let's say this is a strength challenge, and so Krogard, he is going to use one of these monsters that's face up in the middle of the table. So he'll pick the skeleton, because if he uses the skeleton, Each challenge will give a certain number of dice. So the skeleton gives 2 blue dice, but since he matches the icon here, he'll get an extra blue dice. So we start with 2 blacks, and we have extra blue dice. I can also pay up to 2 fortune tokens to add more blue dice, but I choose not to. So I roll these dice to see what happens. I've rolled a total of 4 swords. Then the good guy is going to go. Now, for Merace to win this, she has to roll more than 4 swords. Now, it's a strength challenge, so she has no bonus dice. Now, she does have 2 white dice that she'll be able to roll, and she decides that she's going to spend 2 of those tokens to roll an extra 2 blue dice. And then she looks here and she says, okay, she's going to tap or exhaust her apprentice staff to give her an extra blue die. So then she rolls. She needs 5 dice, and she rolled 4, and 1 die rolled on the floor, and there's a 5th dice, and she wins the challenge. Now, there are other things that can be done. Each of the players has a deck that's made up of power cards. Here's the bad guy's power card deck. There's several power cards in here that are in every bad guy's deck, but there's also 10 that are specific to that bad guy. So your deck will always be different, while the good guy will have a deck of power cards that is basically the same thing. They'll take the power cards that are for them, plus 10 that match their character, shuffle those together for their power card deck. Now, these power card decks often play on the light over here. At the beginning of the game, this light is set. You can see it's night, dusk, clouded, glowing, luminous, or brilliant. And one of these cards is pulled aside to show what it is. 3 of them are light and 3 of them are dark. And many times it might say the game will have it so that you need to move it one towards the light or darkness, so it might change the darkness, or you might move it farther towards the light. When you play the power cards, they have a cost of fortune tokens, but that cost is 1 less if it's on your side of the board. So this fireball is great for the good guy, but it costs 4 to use. However, it would only cost 3 if the card that's currently in play is a light card. So you can play these cards to get extra dice. But anyhow, when the challenge is over, one person's going to win. There's 3 tokens in the middle that you're fighting over for each challenge. The winner will turn over 2 of them and take the rewards. So for example here, this gives me a power-up token and lets me move the light and dark track 1 in my direction. This would give me another power card, and it would also give me another fortune token. And this one here lets me move it twice. Whichever one I pick, the other player then will turn over the other tile and they get to pick one. So both sides gets 1. However, the winner will get an experience point, and sometimes a challenge will also give a treasure card to the hero, which is much better than having nothing, or will give an omen card to the bad guy, which are better than his typical power cards. So there's extra cards that the players can get depending on whether they win or lose. The good guy is going to use his experience points to upgrade his skills and get more skills that they can put in front of them. The bad guy is going to use his to upgrade monsters to level 2. Now, monsters will take wounds as the game progresses, and you can kill them, which gives the hero experience points, so it just brings out more monsters. While the hero usually has a piece of armor, so for example here, they have the wizard's robe, and every time the hero takes a wound, we stick it on the wizard's robe, and when we get to 4, the wizard's robe is breached. We take them all off and we start again. However, the bad guy is going to have the opportunity to give a card to the good guy, so he'll draw 1 from the deck, and at the end of the story he picks one. So for example, the hero must choose a weapon or item to discard, or the hero's hand size is reduced by 1, etc. So those are the different things that can go on, and that's the hero will get experience whether he wins or loses. The bad guy will get experience whether he wins or loses, but eventually they'll get to the final battle. The final battle, you'll go through a whole deck of cards here that are specific to the bad guy being played, and you'll draw these randomly, and it will be a challenge, and you'll fight that challenge, and the first person to win 3 challenges wins the game. Now, I've not gone over everything in this game, but hopefully that's enough to give you kind of an overview of whether you'll like the game or not. It's all about defeating each of those challenges and making choices in the story that will hopefully, for the good guy, help you make easier decisions, and for the bad guy, hopefully they make the ones that will allow you to use your monsters in the most effective way to win battles. My first thought when I saw the rulebook for this, which is 40 pages, was that the game was going to be incredibly complicated, and it's really not. The game is basically having a better die pool than your opponent. See, the hero has to choose when to exhaust his weapons because for each story there's 4 challenges, and they don't get unexhausted until the end of a challenge. So he has to decide when to use that. The bad guy, when he exhausts one of his creatures, can't unexhaust them until he uses all 4 of his creatures. So he has to try to figure out when's the best time to use each one. You also will see what's up in that challenge. If there's a treasure for the hero, the bad guy might try to push harder to stop him from getting that, because it all comes down to that final battle. And so you want to be prepared as possible. The good guy wants to have as many skills as he possibly can and as much good equipment, while the bad guy wants to have level 3 monsters out there if possible to just blow away the other person. And of course, all this doesn't matter if you roll poorly with the dice, because the dice have different things going on. So there's a lot of fun in it, and it's always going to be very different. There's, at least in the version I have here, there's like 40 different story cards to go through. There's 3 villains and 3 heroes and multiple monsters of different types. So the combinations really are endless. And if you do poorly one time, you might try a different skill out. And the decks of power cards are very varied, and you're not going to go through all of them. So there's a lot of pieces in the game, but again, it all comes together in a very cohesive, fast game. I would say that the games I played take maybe an hour at the most. So there's a lot of interesting things in it. I really enjoyed playing it. It's certainly one that you want to check out. Fallen. In just a moment, we're going to show you the Kickstarter link for it, so you can back it yourself, and that's Fallen.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.